Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you for joining me on a Sunday. This is for the last week of October 2023, and it is also Halloween this week, and a lot of characters we've got coming out this week, so very appropriate. So let's get started with the MMRI is in high risk territory, and I think it's going to remain there for some time until something happens. So we're just kind of watching that. The 10-year yield in the United States dollar relative strength, and we're watching a little bit of fear buys as gold went over $2,000. Bitcoin is on a bit of a run, and even cash, the US dollar, is gaining strength. So this kind of sums up the sentiment. This headline, the worst October for stocks in 5 years, has investors exiting the market. So sell-off is going to continue, although slowly. This is not the crash that we're talking about where everyone is exiting for the doors yet. Right now it's negative to neutral, and everyone's kind of holding until Wednesday because that's when the Fed will come out and make their interest rate decision. So like this says, hold on to your hats because it's going to be a very big Fed week. So we're getting a lot of employment data, which will be huge with those numbers. And as I said, 2 o'clock will be the decision. But 2:30 really, when Fed Chair Powell comes out with the press conference, is when things tend to get volatile. So we'll be watching the markets then for certain, and then around some of these numbers. Tomorrow's Monday. There's not anything really important scheduled. So I expect it to be kind of neutral, slower, probably grind down. The larger algos have not started really selling yet. So we're not watching those large plummets or volumes coming out of the market quite yet. But that could happen at any moment. So as I said, we're watching that Federal Reserve decision. As far as oil, is still headline and war driven. And we had this, I thought this was interesting. Dave Blackman comes out saying energy companies are laughing at predictions of quote unquote peak oil. So they came out last week, the end, saying that we've seen the peak of oil prices and now they're just going to come down. So I suppose anything's possible, but I don't believe so. I think they're still going to continue higher in the long term. Everything, all of the fundamentals are not good. So if demand must absolutely drop off a cliff in order for this cost to come down, this is just, that would be the only way that I could see. So with banks and central banks, there's quite a bit going on here that we really need to watch. I think this is more of an issue. So with this story, it's Wells Fargo developing a big problem. And you could just pretty much add in some of the other banks as well. Bank of America has a lot of issues, and JP Morgan Chase even has issues. So we saw Jamie Dimon actually sold quite a bit of his shares, and that's very unusual. So we'll be watching what happens with this. And the story is the US banks witness a whopping $100 billion deposit drop in just 3 weeks. And this Fed survey they're talking about, I pulled this direct from the Federal Reserve website. It's all commercial banks' deposits. So they have no deposits. If they don't have any deposits and they're not making loans, they're sitting there paying their debt on the bonds that they have, and they're not making money. So they're basically hemorrhaging right now. And this drop is what they're talking about $100 billion in deposits. This is basically bank runs going on. And they're just not talking about it in public right now. So if you have your money in the bank and you don't need it there for your bills for this month, get it out. Anyway, not financial advice, but it is if you want to keep any kind of value at all. So with this story, kind of a generic one. So this says Britain is hurtling toward a debt crisis, but we're too addicted to handouts to care, meaning that it's going to go on profligate spending. And so they're kind of picking on them. Really, you could say the US and substitute the appropriate politician, but we're all hurtling toward a debt crisis. This is global. It's not just them. So I wanted to pick that up because there's a larger issue going on. The American Bankruptcy Institute has brought up that small business bankruptcies are on an incredible rise. And 78% of small business owners are worried about their ability to access capital. Basically, they cannot get loans now. Banks are so tight and the interest rates are so high that they cannot afford it. So that's an issue. So, along with that, we've got this counteractive story, at least it seems like it at the front. Saudi oil billions, talking about the private investment fund that they run, is drawing Wall Street to Davos in the desert. And their point is that it's right next to the war that's going on when they're supposed to be mediating. But it kind of is the backbone for the war because all wars are bankers' wars, and this is all about the money. So it's kind of just cause, or doesn't surprise me at all that they're having all of this money go on right next to the war that they're basically causing. So, a couple of totally off stories. This one is stock specific, but I caught this. Google is to invest another $2 billion in artificial intelligence firm Anthropic. So, we'll watch some movement on that, but it won't necessarily be positive. Most companies that are getting a positive boost are because they are cutting costs, because people are beginning to realize we're hitting that deflationary spiral. So we'll see how that reacts. The other story that we've got is X, formerly Twitter. They've been talking about a project called Omega, and they're very vague on it, so we don't know what that is. But according to The Verge, Elon Musk is trying to create a future which will create an entire platform for financial lives. And they cut a quote from him, and I'll read that to you. It says, from Elon Musk, when I say payments, I actually mean someone's entire financial life. If it involves money, it'll be on our platform. Money or securities or whatever. So it's not just like send $20 to my friend that I'm talking about, like you won't need a bank account, unquote. So that's what he said in a recorded meeting. So we'll see kind of what he's got planned. Going to be something big, that's for sure. So I've got another story actually on couple. They're saying that there is a new artificial intelligence dating app that scans your face, says it can read your personality, and then find you a match. Okay, I think that's garbage. And even if it could, your identity is worth about 20 US dollars. Anything they can do to get you to scan your face and then sell off your information. So just wanted to bring this out there. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think, aside from the scanning, aside from the trying to sell your identity or keep it in their files permanently that you can never erase, do you think artificial intelligence would be able to read your personality? Your emotion maybe at the time. I do agree with that. Personality, that'd be kind of tough. And with that, I'd like to bring forward my angry cow. Okay, why is my cow angry? Well, she's angry and she's got fangs. And it's because cows are a nuisance for the planet. You think this is possibly an agenda? So they're saying before it used to be that they produce too much methane gas. Now they're saying that their waste, which is true, produces nitrates and nitrites that leach down into the water supply. So, and then that makes it unsuitable for drinking. So this is true. However, what they fail to mention is that there's ways to treat this and basically turn this into fertilizer, which is very much needed. So, not the whole story. Cow's very angry because they're talking again. So, this particular story is about Irish farmers. And I don't know why they pick on them. They don't want them eating meat, but they want them to slaughter 41,000 cows. Maybe it's just because I read their news, but 41,000 cattle over these regulations to fight climate change. I don't agree. One last thing I do want to bring up, and this is on a serious note, about the shooter on the rampage in Maine. There were quite a few oddities surrounding this. And I want to know if you think this was an agenda. If you don't follow Black Scout or haven't heard this story, it's called Black Scout Survival. If you Google that on YouTube, I'm going to try to leave the link, but it might get pulled out. Anyway, he goes into the details of some of these oddities. And I'd like to get your opinion on that, or at least let you be aware of the story behind the story, which is what I'm here for, to get you to think, let other people think, and just kind of bring that out. So if you haven't hit the like button yet, if you would consider doing so, I would appreciate that. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful Sunday. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.